Sea journey. At last the great day arrived. Charles discovered that his quarters for the journey were to be a large open cabin in which there were 20 hammocks for the single young man. But Charles did not take long to become acquainted with the other youths, some of whom, like William Hazard, were to be close and lifelong friends. One of the young men in his cabin, Robert Smith, filled in the slow hours aboard the ship by writing a long letter to his father in England. We were towed out of the East India Docks on Saturday the 1st, about 9 a.m. amidst a great cheering from a concourse of people who had assembled to witness the departure. We went smoothly down the Thames, and although the day was rather dull and threatening rain, we had a beautiful view of the surrounding scenery as we passed. We arrived at Gravesend, cast anchor, there to undergo the inspection of the Government Commission agents. We all lined up on the poop and had to pass one by one showing our contract tickets, which constituted the government inspection of the passengers. The ship had yet to undergo a search by these gentlemen, and as there was a great deal of luggage lying in among the tables and seats in a sort of topsy-turvy fashion, they concluded there was too much cargo on board, and that some of it must come off and be sent by another vessel. This created a great deal of discontent among the passengers, as everyone was afraid of losing some of their belongings for a long time. However, getting dark and nothing could be done that night, so we amused ourselves a little with music of various kinds until bedtime, and then retired for the night. About 7 a.m. I was awakened by the noise of the passengers running to and fro, shouting all sorts of tones about their luggage as lighter was alongside, and the men of the ship were already actively putting off some of the cargo. While this was going on, I went to breakfast, and at 11 a.m. went to divine service, which was well attended. Hearing a very good sermon, I could scarcely realise that it was Sabbath. Seeing some collected in a group in one part of the ship praising God, and in another part of the ship men busy discharging cargo in a very unbecoming manner, tearing and swearing at their work, so you may guess what sort of Sabbath we had for the first, very different from what you see in Scotland, but appears to concord with the feelings of the English. I judge they may praying very earnestly at one time, and immediately after be singing and whistling all the various tunes in existence. I almost forgot. We even had vendors of apples and nuts from Gravesend pressing the passengers to purchase from them, and I have no doubt they did a good stoke of business, although it was Sunday. However the day was spent, in the evening we formed into groups singing hymns and church music, and then went to bed. I slept tolerably well, getting up the next morning, Monday at 7 a.m, after a wash, and stole on the deck. There was breakfast. Then orders were given out that we would get our weekly rations served out after breakfast, which caused great hubbub. You must first know that there are two different kinds of passengers, namely 200 nonconformists, and the others composed of many persons sent by shipbrokers to fill up, composed of many persons sent by shipbrokers. Consequently, we had two scales of rations, one inferior to the other. The ship was going to serve us all on the inferior scale, which we resented. Fortunately, the government agent was on board the second time, so 10 of us went to him and presented our contract tickets and ventilated our grievances. He immediately gave orders that we were to get no less than what was on our tickets, whatever more. So we all had to show our tickets before we got our rations. Consequently, we were fed at one pitch, while the other party were fed at one much less. However, we got matters corrected and spent the rest of the day feeling rather idle and discontented, everyone complaining at being kept so long and anxiously inquiring when we were going to start. Many reports were made, some that we were going to start immediately, some that we were going to start in 2 or 3 days hence, while others were that the ship was condemned and that we would be required to go back to London and join another. However, we were a little pacified when we were informed by the mate that we could start early next morning. At that stage everyone grew towards this evening's amusement of various sorts. Music was struck up and dancing was entered into with a great spirits. Gradually they retired to rest, and by 10 o'clock most of them were in the arms of Morpheus. I remained myself on deck till near 12 o'clock, then went to bed and slept well till 6 a.m. When I was awakened by the tremendous cheering of those who had got up before me, I hurried on deck along with many others in shirt and trousers to join the crowd in cheering as we were actually leaving the place, which seeded a release to our detention of 3 days and 3 nights. The tug came alongside, lines were made fast, and the impatient paddles, after hesitating splash or two, moved steadily on. The 3 days familiarised the scenery gradually guided away. While we were sooner off than we were proceeding with a moderate speed down the long avenue of ships stretching towards the sea, looking around us as we ploughed the centre of the river, with a fine view we obtained of the surrounding scenery. Although the country on both sides was very flat and comparatively uninteresting, it was not without charm, however, and very fitting for the English landscape. Rich alluvial plains on either side stretched far around, and although the river was very wide and the land pretty distant from us, yet we could easily discern fine hedgerows and belts of planting, with here and there an elegant mansion or a snug little farmhouse beautifully studded around with clumps of trees. On every elevated and prominent part we could see windmills busily at work. The river now grew so wide that we could scarcely discern anything at all. The passengers left off looking at the land, their attention now turned toward the amusement towards the sailors, who were spreading the sails, singing very merry songs as they did so, which was something new to those who had never been to sea. Our tug was about to leave us, and darkness was setting in, so the passengers were gradually going below and turning towards the evening's amusement. We had a great deal of music in the evening so far, but tonight a few of the young men had a meeting for the purpose of forming a class for mutual improvement, and it was decided that we shall have meetings each Tuesday and Friday evening at 7:30 p.m. Our first subject for discussion is to be, who are the heroes of the day? And so I will read more from the diary in a minute, because it's quite long.